Okay, moving on to question 18. Which of the following is a physical change? So over here to the right, I have put a little sort of, picture of different types of changes between chemical and physical change. So when we're going to talk about a little test-taking skills that are really helpful to have. So when a question is asking for a positive, it's asking like, what is a physical change, not what is not a physical change, which would be a negative. So what is a physical change? And let's highlight that. You can underline it on your test, you can circle it, but I want you to step back and think about what are physical changes. Physical changes are things that change the property of the whatever you're looking at. So if we have an ice cube, its current property is that it's a solid. But ice can also melt and it can evaporate if we boil it. So those are property changes. The water is still H2O. It still exists the same as H2O. All that's changed is its physical property. It was a solid, and then it was a liquid, and then it was a gas. We had it frozen as a solid, we melted it into liquid, and then we evaporated it into a gas. All of those things are physical changes. Additionally, over here on the picture, we see like shredding or chopping of wood. The paper's physical or properties do not change. We shred a piece of paper, we cut it up, it's still paper, it's just in a different physical form. If we chop wood, the wood is still chemically wood, but it's all chopped up now. So its physical property has changed, but their chemical properties haven't changed. So when we look at what is a physical change and we're looking at the answers, we want to look for things that we can cross off right away. So we want to look for things that are not physical changes, and that makes it easy. So if a firecracker explodes, anytime something explodes, you would think that, oh, it's breaking apart, right? So it didn't change. But the fire, lighting a firework actually is a chemical reaction. It's the fire that creates the chemical reaction and then it explodes. So a firecracker exploding is a chemical reaction. A rubber band expanding. So imagine a rubber band in your hand and you're pulling it apart and then letting it go back and pulling it apart. Is it changing at all? It's not really changing, so maybe this is a physical change. Let's write a question mark. We know it's probably not a chemical change. A piece of wood is burned. Again, any type of burning is going to be a chemical reaction because you are changing the wood from its chemical property as wood into ash, and those are two different things. A chemical reaction happened to change the wood into ash. So we know it isn't this. And I'm looking at the word burned and explodes as kind of clues to me that those are chemical changes. And that's the same for a nail rusting. Rusting is an oxidation chemical change. So we know any type of rust or tarnish is a chemical change. So by eliminating the three that I knew were not physical changes, I can pick the rubber band expanding. And I guess it's a little obvious that a rubber band is not changing its chemical composition when we're just pulling it and letting it go and pulling it. It's just changing its shape a little bit. Okay, for 19, it's the same question, but it's the other thing. It's what is a chemical change? So now that we've talked a lot about what are physical changes, let's go and cross off all of the things we know for sure are physical changes. So remember we talked about freezing, melting, and boiling. Those are physical changes. Those are key words to tell you that that's a physical change. So freezing is a physical change. Evaporating is also a physical change. It's changing from a liquid alcohol into a gas alcohol. So it's just going from liquid to gas, and it can go back from gas to liquid, but its composition stays the same. It's still an alcohol. So we know that that is not a chemical reaction. All right, so we have two left, and this is where it kind of comes in handy. We don't even have to look at A and B or think about it. Let's just look at C now. A rock is ground into powder, and silver tarnishes. So when we were up here and we talked about wood burning, the burning of the wood changed it into ash. It changed its chemical composition. But if I were to take a rock and put it on the ground and hit it with a hammer, is it changing is that like a chemical process? Or are we just changing the state of the rock from a big solid into a whole bunch of little solids? So that's a physical change. We're just changing its state from a big rock into lots of little teeny tiny solids. So that is also a physical change. So that leaves us with silver tarnishing. And remember up here when I talked about rust and burned and explodes, all of those are key words to tell you it's a chemical change. Same for tarnish. Tarnish is a chemical change. All right. Now it's a negative. So he's asking which of the following is not a chemical change. So what does that mean it's asking for? It's wanting to know what our physical change is. So sometimes I just like to write it off to the side. What am I looking for? I want things that are physical changes. I want to circle things that are physical changes. So compression of oxygen gas. We're just compressing it. We're not changing anything. We're putting it into a smaller container, or we're putting a lid on it, but we're not changing oxygen in any way. So that is a physical. I'm just going to underline it because, let's look at all of them, but that's very much a physical change. Decomposition of water into two different things, hydrogen and oxygen, that's a chemical change. And that's another kind of hint word for you of chemical changes, decomposition. So we're taking water, we're taking H2O, and we're breaking it up into this. So when we are breaking apart two elements, that has to be done chemically. We can't go into water and pull out some water molecules and break them apart with our hands. We can't do that, but we can chemically break them apart. So this is a chemical example. And remember, we're looking for physical changes, not chemical changes, not chemical changes. Charging a cellular phone is a chemical change. The battery is exchanging ions, and so that is a chemical change. And again, we have this word tarnish, we know is a chemical thing, a chemical process. So that leaves us with A. So anytime you have something where it says not a thing, off to the side, write what is the thing, and then look for that. It's a lot easier. All right, for 21, which of the following is not normally part of scientific inquiry? So we want something that is a part of scientific. Oh, my handwriting's atrocious. Inquiry. So observations, laws, and theories are all a part of scientific inquiry. So since we're looking for not, let's cross off what it is. So it's not this, and it's not this, because those are all a part of scientific inquiry, right? We make an observation, we can make a hypothesis off of that observation, we can do an experiment with that hypothesis, get some data, and if we prove our hypothesis, now we have a theory, and then there are such things as laws, but those laws are like the laws of nature. Those don't change. But all of those things are included in scientific inquiry. So the answer is D.